Hey, it's Brendan from Comic-Con. Today we're talking RSVP E.S.P with Josh Malerman and Dirk Manning. A Kickstarter that's going to start on April 1st. Josh is a New York Times bestselling horror author whose works include Bird Box, Daphne, Inspection, and Incidents Around the House. Dirk Manning is a friend of the show. We've seen him lots of times. He's got over 20 successful Kickstarters, so this is at least number 21. He's also known for Tales of Mystery, Nightmare World, and Love Stories About Death. Josh, Dirk, how you fellas doing today?
Amazing. This is the first discussion I've ever really had, or first or second, regarding graphic novels. I'm new to this entire space. I've written like 41 novels. This is my first time in this universe, thanks to Dirk, and I'm floored by it. We'll talk as we go, but I'm just floored by seeing the process and seeing the coming together and like literally the layering of what has become RSVP ESP.
Yeah. Nice. Well, it's interesting because Dirk is one of those guys in this industry that kind of bridges gaps between genres and entertainment spheres. You know, he brings professional wrestlers in, he brings writers in, he brings just from all over the place. Dirk is the guy that everybody seems to know. So it's not shocking at all. But Dirk, how are you doing today, man?
Good, man. Like Josh said, man, I'm just excited to be here. I'm so excited about this. As we're recording this, not to pull back the curtain too much, but we're in the final stages of like doing the final like back end stuff on the Kickstarter page itself, and the lettered pages are rolling in and stuff like that. And like when Josh and I talked last night, it's like it's getting real. We're about a week out, man. It's like we're ready to go. Super excited about this.
Fantastic. Let me read the description really quick. It says, after scouring the internet and other places, parapsychologist James Massey believes he's discovered two young men who exhibit some degree of ESP. After establishing contact with their respective families, he invites them to spend 2 weeks in his home laboratory in order to study their potential. What he doesn't realize is that the two are powerful beyond anybody's wildest imaginings, and that while one of them appreciates what the doctor is doing, the other one despises it in all ways. So begins a tug-of-war with the doctor's reality, a war Massey himself has no idea is occurring, even as they both begin to completely rewrite his reality. That is amazing. That sounds really, really interesting. So tell me a little bit. So Josh, you wrote the book, and then Dirk, you adapted it into a graphic novel. So Josh, where did this story begin? Like, what were the seeds that were planted that made this story come together?
Yeah, most of my stories begin, and this is going to sound like bizarrely small, but with just like sort of an image. And in the case of Bird Box, it was a woman and two kids blindfolded in a rowboat. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what that means, but I like it. Let's dig into it. And this one was Dr. Massey holding up one of those Zener cards, which I have, by the way, the Zener cards, holding up Zener cards to two boys. And it was clear to me in this image that he had no idea how powerful these kids were. And that was like super exciting to me. The idea of a doctor that's like, what's on the other side of this card? Even as he doesn't realize he's not even sitting at a table because they're constructing his entire reality. And whatever that was enough for me to be like, okay, this is a whole story.
Nice. And then Dirk, you read the novel. The novel came into your you found it and you read it and you liked it and you said this has to be a graphic novel. What are some of the challenges of taking a novel and make it into a graphic storytelling format?
Well, when I read Josh's story, right, and I don't even know if it's fair to say novel per se, but this was a situation where it was actually kind of like the opposite way. I've been familiar with Josh's work for a long time, been a big fan of his personally, big fan of his professionally. And I went to one of his book release parties. And I was like, hey, man, have you ever thought about doing something in the world of graphic novels? Just because selfishly, as a fan of his work, I would love to see that something that he would do in this medium. He's such a powerful writer. He's such a great writer, incredible books. And his response, not to put Josh on the spot, was like, well, yeah, if you'll do it with me. I'm like, okay. So this was just me trying to kind of bring him into the world and then us kind of tag teaming. And so from there, Josh and I talked a lot about the medium. You talk about some different comic books I like stuff like Junji Ito, for example, and the kind of horror comics I like and stuff like that. And then he came to me with the story that he just described of RSVP, what's now known as RSVP ESP. And it was kind of a situation. It was like, yeah, this one just, it's not quite there. And again, Josh, correct me at a time here, but it was kind of like as I remember, you're like, it's not quite there. Can't go and get my arms around it. And when I read the this kind of like, not half, like 3/4 cooked story, I was like, Josh, the reason this isn't sticking the landing is because it's so visual. This is a story meant to be a graphic novel, and then we just, he talked to some of his people and stuff. We read it, and we were off to the races with it. But when I read the story, it was one of those things where immediately I could just see it visually. This is a visual story, and many times Josh is a very visual writer. And then on top of that, I could only imagine Joshua Ross illustrating the story, like scenes, like I was making notes, like, oh my gosh, Joshua Ross could do it this way, could do it this way, blah blah blah. So it really just kind of came together with the perfect synergy. I really believe this was a story that Josh drafted that was meant to exist in this format.
Nice. Now you said a couple of names there. I'm assuming that's some of the rest of the creative team. Who else is working on this with you?
Joshua Ross is our illustrator. Colin Johnson is our colorist. Dave Lentz is doing the lettering, and Drina Joe is doing the editing.
Nice. So I got to read the first 12 pages, and I saw some parallels between your main character, this doctor, and J.B. Ryan, who was the guy that everybody knows for inventing kind of parapsychology. And one of the things that's really interesting about this guy is you're talking about how clueless this doctor is in your story. J.B. Ryan has no psychological background. This guy in the 30s just discovered, he's a botanist, and he just discovered this idea, and it kind of took him places that I don't think he really thought he was going to go. And I see a lot of that in your main character. Was Ryan a part of the process here, or is it just coincidental?
No, that's straight coincidental. And I now, because of you bringing this up, I'm gonna be searching for an entire biography on this guy. I'm not even kidding.
Okay, so his name is Joseph Bank Rhines. He was born in 1895. He died in 1980, so he actually was alive not that far back. He was a contemporary of Houdini, and actually Houdini did a lot of medium busting because they tried to prey on him when he had just lost his mother, and Houdini loved his mama. So when they came to him and they were like, oh, we're talking to your mom or whatever, he's like, I'm going to destroy you. So J.B. Ryan was doing a bunch of the same stuff where he was figuring out how these mediums were doing things, and then it kind of interested him in the paranormal. And I think that for some of his results, he might have used some of the same techniques that he was busting mediums for at the time. Because he wanted the results. Because initially he was getting 100% results, and then it dropped to 40%, which is still pretty amazing. Right. And then with the same subject that was getting the 40%, it got down and down and down. And they were thinking that maybe the subject wasn't cooperating anymore because he was getting bored with it or whatever. But J.B. Ryan was a botanist around the turn of the century. He was a contemporary of Harry Houdini. And he invented parapsychology. He actually founded the parapsychology lab at Duke University, the Journal of Parapsychology, the Foundation for Research and the Nature of Man, and the Parapsychological Associations. What time period were you guys shooting for here?
It was something that came up. And again, I don't want to pull back the curtain too much. So Josh just like there's any moment. But there was a question came up when we were starting to put this together visually, because the draft of the story that was written, it wasn't, it was a fleshed out enough story, but it was that was one of the things, what is the aesthetic we want to look for for this book? And Joshua Ross, I've worked with him on Tales of Mystery, I've worked with him on Nightmare World and all this stuff. And like I said, I could only picture him doing it. But then he came to me, and I think he asked Josh and I both, he's like, what time period is this? Mm-hmm. And we were kind of we're not sure. And I don't even think it was till the colors came in that we kind of settled on this pseudo late 70s, early 80s kind of aesthetic.
It might be a common thing for a writer to say, but I do try to or find myself time out of joint. Goblin, I don't know exactly when Goblin. Unburied Carol is a Western, but is it the American West? Maybe. Even Bird Box, the rough draft of Bird Box, the editor at HarperCollins was like, hey, you need to give me at least one internet reference in this book so that we know when this is. Yeah. The rough draft had none. So maybe it's a common thing. I don't know if it is or not for a writer to say that. But to me, it's more Twilight Zone-y. It's more exciting. It's more interesting not to know exactly. A very famous example would be the shell phone in It Follows, right? It's right. What the hell is that thing? Is that the future or is that the past? What's going on?
Yeah, and there is a bit, and I don't want to give it away because it's towards the end, But when we kind of developed the ending, there is some technology that may put a certain timestamp on it, kind of. But again, we wanted it to be kind of fluid. Like I'm a big fan of stuff like movies like House of the Devil, which it like looks like a certain thing, but it also is very modern at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great example, Dirk. That's a really great example because you would assume this is straight 80s homage or whatever, but no, it's not.
Yeah,
and like you start to feel this way too, but not that you care so much exactly when it is, but I would say like early 80s, late 70s. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that tracks. Because like we, before we started recording, I was like, stranger danger obviously didn't play into the beginning of the story because one of the families is just like, yeah, peace. We're going on vacation. We're sit here, do your thing. Let us know when you're done. We'll be back to pick them up. And it's like, that definitely doesn't happen post maybe 1985 and 1989.
At least not with a typical child.
Okay. Three wavy lines.
A triangle.
I don't have the gift. I'm not.
There was a straight line anywhere on that thing.
Nice, cool. So let's talk about the Kickstarter itself. Dirk, you've done 21 of these things now. None of them have not funded. Every one of them has funded. So you are obviously old hat at this. What are some of the rewards you're offering for this one?
Oh gosh, to be 20 plus years into my publishing career, to still have a first is really cool. And working with Josh on this, I really want to do something extra special. And I've been waiting to do this for a long time. So with this campaign, for the first time ever, we're doing a Kickstarter exclusive hardcover with a lenticular cover. Ooh, so it's going to be one of those covers like when you move it and like the image is going to change to show like different stuff going on in the story. So I'm super excited about that. We have a really cool Kickstarter exclusive t-shirt. We got an actual print of the lenticular as well. So you can have that separate. We're doing a combo deal. You can get the Kickstarter exclusive hardcover as well as the trade paperback. But for me, the big thing is always going to be like mainly the book. The shirt's really fun, right? The print is really fun. But ultimately, what we want to do is to have the focus on the book. And what I like to do when I run a Kickstarter, if people have ever seen in my other campaigns, how deluxe can we make the book? And then how much other cool stuff can we pile in through stretch goals? But first and foremost, anybody who pledges for the hardcover level is going to get a hardcover with a lenticular cover. But then, again, you can add on the shirt. You can do the combo deals and things like that. And we do have some really cool stretch goal things lined up as well.
Nice. So one of the things that I really like about that type of Kickstarter where it's like very, very book focused is that, a lot of times they'll give you a PDF as a reader so that you don't have to crack the spine or anything so that collectors can have it or people who just really want to love that book can do it that way. But so are you doing digital copies as well? Yeah.
You can get a digital copy of the book. I even do something where, because I'm like, as you can see by my office, I'm such a book guy, you can get the double trouble where you can get like the trade paperback and the hardcover. So you have like the trade paperback, like your loaner copy. Then like the hardcover is like your pristine, nice collector's edition. I always love doing the Give Me Everything. The Give Me Everything, you get the hardcover, the trade paperback, the digital reader, the t-shirt, and a bonus lenticular print with it.
For the low price of you Give Me Everything.
That one comes in. I always do free US shipping. So I think it's like all that stuff all in is like $100 free US shipping.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. And it's funny because you said a loaner copy. When 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank came out, I got like 16 copies of that thing because I knew I was going to give it to everybody, right? So I was at my mother-in-law's house the other day for her birthday. I'm not going to say which birthday, but we were there and I went in, the hall bathroom was being used. So I went into their bedroom bathroom and on top of the toilet was a copy of 4 Kids Walking Into the Bank. And I'm like, did I give them that or did they buy it? Did I talk about it? Like, anyway. So that's Dirk's experience. And Josh, have you ever done a Kickstarter before?
No.
Is this all new to you?
Yep, this is new to me. And I wanted to kind of weigh in on what Dirk just said because we were going through everything and I noticed that it was like book focused and book centric. It felt like I was worried going into this a little bit where I'm like, what is a special feature? What am I gonna have to do, like a tap dancing video? You know what I mean? Do I gonna have to send my jeans or something? And then going through everything with Dirk, I was like, dude, this is like classy. It's cool. It really is. It's my first experience with a graphic novel, with a Kickstarter, and working intimately in this way with Dirk. And it's freaking cool, man. It just feels like, as someone who literally has only been in the novel or short story space, it feels so story first or book centric that I feel completely at home. And I also I know that if I was somebody interested in the project, I would exactly what you brought up. Like, is there a digital copy available? Is the special features still book related, like an afterword by either me or Dirk or whatever, something of that nature? So it really, to me, it's just obvious that Dirk's, all of his thinking is satelliting around this graphic novel.
Yeah, and I hate to be the one to break this to you, but the next 4 weeks of your life are going to be super duper ridiculously stressful, because you're going to be checking levels all the time for, what stretch level are we at? Have we broken our goal? Like, how many weeks do we have left? How many days do we have left? What stages do we still have to do? Because in the midst of all the stuff that's happening on the Kickstarter site, while you're trying to fund, you're also wrapping up your lettering passes and your final print stages and all those different things too. Right. So I don't know how much of that comes over from like the prose side into graphic novels, but I know that I would never want to be in your shoes right now, because it's a lot.
you know what's actually super interesting to me, man, is, and I wasn't expecting this at all, and I don't know the equivalent of this in a novel. Maybe a copy editor, but this doesn't make sense that way. But the lettering, oh my God. Like, I already read the script. I already love the script, and Dirk and I had gone through it. And then I see Josh's illustrations. Oh my God, the coloring, everything's coming to life. But the freaking lettering, I was like, oh, like, I think I was with Dirk. He saw my face.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, it's like seeing the movie edited or something. I don't have the equivalent in mind, but it was like, it had reached, like, we are there. And so like the lettering part. Oh, and also what's been kind of cool is for Dirk and I to go through, because again, Dirk wrote the graphic novel, to go through the lettering and be like, maybe he could switch a line here. Maybe you can switch a line there. I didn't know any of this went on. You know what I mean? And to see the inner workings and to feel the rush of, like, I just never would have guessed, like, the lettering is the point where I felt like our flag is on the mountaintop. We are doing it, Yeah.
Nice. And it's interesting because it's only just recently that letterers are actually getting their due, because a lot of people don't realize that, in a traditional comic, you've got the script writer, you've got a penciler, you've got an inker, you've got a flatter who does the basic colors. Then you've got a colorist that comes in and does all the subtleties with the shading and things. Then you've got the letterer, then you've got the editors, and it goes through all these different stages. And sometimes it'll go back 5 stages, to go forward 2 stages, to come back another stage. And letterers are just now starting to get their names on the cover and stuff. But without the letterer, you've got nothing to read.
Yeah, no, it's like next level stuff for me. Again, I don't know exactly how to equate it to a book, but I know that feeling with a book. And I think it's the copy edit for me in the book. And I realize that the letterer is not editing it. But it is that moment when you get the copy edit back of a novel, you're like, oh, there. We're there now, and now anything we switch is just the tiniest little, like, oh my God, it's just a little better, or it's fine as is. And that's what the lettering felt like to me. Same rush.
Yeah, and it's been fun to do this too, because I don't know if you remember when we first started this, Josh, and I said, look, if we do this, it's nothing about you without you, right?
Yeah, no, I think of that phrase often when you said that.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things, like, okay, man, so like a couple weeks back or whatever, we started getting the letters in, right? And it's like, okay, and just walking through, like, okay, this is what this looks like, and we had to kind of trim this part down and do this, and all that, and it's just, I'll tell you, man, and wait till you hold it in your hand.
I'm gonna lose my mind, man.
Yeah, I know, dude.
For that day.
Every time I get a new book, it's like,
I'm gonna lose my mind, man.
Right? You're like holding it up and like, there it is,
well, it's like every go ahead.
Well,
no, I was just going to say every part of the process is a tangible thing. You've got the new email that you're opening and you're seeing the colors for the first time. Or like you said, you're seeing the letters for the first time. But when you're physically holding it, now something that has been 2-dimensional for so long is now physically in your hand, and the weight of it is just a thing. Like, I just have like thanks in a couple of books, or my name in the back of a book or something like that. And that even is just so ridiculously amazing. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And also, like, okay, I released a book. I serialized the book on my website. I have an 1,100 page book. I have a 120 page book. I have books of novellas. I have a book that I wrote. I tried to write it 500 words a day. I had another one where I wrote it 5,300 words a day. So I really do try to change up every writing experience and make it uniform, at least within itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's another reason when Dirk approached me at the reading and he was like, do you want to do this? I'm thinking in my head, like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is another way for a story to get out. And that's why I was like, yeah, if you do it with me, if you hold my hand, if you write it. Oh, that's another thing. When Dirk first gave me the script, I've read scripts before, like movie scripts, but not a graphic novel script. And it was awesome, man, to see like a story that, like he said, it wasn't that it wasn't working. That's kind of making it sound like something else. It's hard to explain what we mean when we say that. But it was very obvious that it was working in the script. There was this like brevity and directness.
Wait, Dirk has words. You said you couldn't find the word, and Dirk was like, "I've got it."
Well,
and again, I mean this with complete reverence and friendship and no disrespect. So if this is wrong, tell me, Josh. I almost felt it was like if you're baking a cake and it's like 3/4 done, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like you put the toothpick in, or you pull out, and just still little like wet stuff on there, and I'm like, and I remember you and I talked. And this is how I remember, and you're like, yeah, I'm sitting on this, and it just like, it's just like it's almost there, And what I said to you is, I said, this is a story that should be told visually.
Yep.
Because there's so many visual aspects to it, and like you even said, it started with like that scene that we ended up using for the trade paperback cover. But to me, that's what it was. Because when I read it, I'm like, this is amazing. But it's like, now let's project this story rather than write this story.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Because the story is a story, right? I mean, I made very few changes to the structure of the storytelling being done. I mean, you have to cut some stuff out. I think I gently tweaked the ending a smidge, but I mean, just for the sake of the medium. But by and large, like the story was there.
Well, I think by nature, and this is similar maybe to a film, and I know they're not the same thing, but still, a graphic novel by nature asks you to show, right? And sometimes in a novel, I like to tell sometimes. I know it breaks the rule. I don't care. I love doing it. I love spending a long time in a character's head and and all the characters in Goblin are obsessively losing their minds and and that might be it too, Dirk, is that like this story was supposed to be shown. Yep. Like you're supposed to just get to it. The kids arrive. He's nervous and glad to see them. The parents are like, take our kids, we're out of here. And the script, when I'm reading your script, I'm like, oh, right. This is the story.
So like the page, and this is not spoiling anything, the first establishing shot of the house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And I remember your reaction. You're like, I've seen that in my head forever.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it was just so cool. Like, that's working. We got it. Right. So it's like,
it's really amazing. I would advise every author in the universe if they could somehow meet Dirk or somehow pull this off just to watch it happen. I saw Bird Box made into a film, and it was a similar rush of like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. This is the imagination, but like in my hands or on the screen for now. But I'll have it in my hands soon.
Oh, that's
nice. So Bird Box, you keep saying Bird Box because you wrote Bird Box and it's a film now, but like Bird Box, the imagery of that cover, the imagery of that poster of the woman with the tied back bandana around her eyes or whatever that is or whatever, like the imagery is so important. Like people aren't going to go see a film that's called Bird Box without seeing the image. And it's interesting that, graphic novels have to tell so much with the pictures. And then that's where having the right artist, again, knowing where to freeze the action to tell the most of the story so that you don't have to get too deep into exposition to where you lose people before you even start.
Well, I feel like I've had a crash course in that as Dirk and I are going through the lettering pages. I didn't know that. What Dirk? What are they called? The gutters?
Yeah.
So, for example,
the gutters.
Yeah. So Dirk he's explaining. He's talking the way you're talking right now in terms of like, and then the pause here. Exemplify or increases the tension from the panel before, and the full shot here is for the reader to be like, oh my gosh, here we are in the story. And so I've had almost a crash course in what you're describing right now in the last couple of weeks with Dirk.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. All right. I think that's about the time that we have. This has been really, really cool. Thank you both for coming on. But we're talking about RSVP, E.S.P, and I'm going to coin a phrase right here that I don't see in the solicit, so I'm taking credit for this. This is a parapsychological horror. It goes on Kickstarter on April 1st, and there's some really cool like backer rewards for that. You can get all kinds of different versions of it. And I think, Dirk, before you've done the things where you'll like Skype people and draw them in and stuff like that too. So there's going to be some other stuff on there, but it's going to be mostly book based, which is cool because you're going to have the lenticular cover, which I think is awesome. I love those things. It's very, very early 90s throwback.
Yeah.
But it goes live on the 1st. It's going to run for what, 4 weeks?
April 1st until Cinco de Mayo. So we're going holiday to holiday. April 1st to May 5th.
And I'm not going to forget that because Cinco de Mayo is my middle son's birthday.
There it is. Well, see, we're gonna party on April 1st, no fooling. And then, Josh, I'm calling it now. We're gonna get together. We're gonna celebrate May 5th. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating a very successful campaign. But
Well, no, I've seen the first 12 pages, and they're it pulls you right in. It's some very creepy stuff. Like even the first, like just like, yeah, here, take my kid. It's just like, what are you thinking? Like, what's wrong with you? But anyways, so it starts on April 1st.
I know we gotta go, but I'll say this: you haven't seen nothing yet.
I'm excited.
This story goes places visually that I finally get to scratch my Gingy E2 itch, right? And it just gets very surreal and very exciting. And it's been so hard to like not show people some of that. We'll show them a little bit, but just you wait. This is a wild one.
Nice, fantastic. So Josh Malerman, Dirk Manning, I'm Brendan Allen. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.